Hi there, welcome back to another Crypto Dave video. It's Friday, which means another crypto interest rates and news update. Today's the 30th of April 2021. And as always, we start by taking a look at any interest rate changes and any new coins. Now, no new coins to talk about. Now, the irony is that these rates will all be obsolete tomorrow, and this is what we're going to be concentrating on this week. As I mentioned in last week's video, as we get towards the end of the month, the big news on all these platforms really is who's going to change their rates for the next month. Now, this is particularly relevant for Celsius, who sometimes seem to change their rates on a weekly basis, but particularly BlockFi and Ledn that do basically a monthly announcement now. So they change their rates, or can change their rates, every month. So they do an announcement towards the end of each month, announcing the rates for the beginning of next month. And then Cryptocom and Nexo seem to be a little bit more ad hoc. They often hold their rates for a longer kind of period of time, but then just do, throw in a change or two here or there. So I suppose the big news is ignore this spreadsheet because I will be updating this tomorrow. So the beginning of next month, all the rates, or a lot of these kind of rates, will change. The only thing that I did this last week was Celsius. A lot of the stablecoin rates on Celsius dropped this last week, so they've dropped down to 10% paid in kind, 12.65 paid in sell a token. So that's the big kind of news there. Take a quick glance at the token prices quickly, and then we'll go on to all the different kind of rate changes and who's moving what and changing what this month. So I've thrown Bitcoin into this chart here just so we can see these coin token kind of changes in comparison to kind of something, because often you might see a particularly kind of bad week, but if Bitcoin's had a bad week, that will be reflected in these kind of token prices. So I thought it's useful just to throw this in as a comparison. You can see a Bitcoin up 5% this week. We had that really big sort of a week, I suppose, of downward kind of pressure. We had a big jump down, then a few days of stabilization, then another really big jump down. But we've seen the price creep back up a little bit over the last 7 days, up 5.2% for Bitcoin. And it's been a reasonable kind of week, sort of like following those kind of trends for most of these tokens. So Nexo pretty much in line with kind of Bitcoin. Cryptocom's had a reasonable week, almost up 10%. Swissborg up 12%, so a decent week for a Swissborg. Celsius token, after that really big jump up a couple of weeks ago, you can see this rise right at the beginning of the week as well, has basically kind of towered off, completely the opposite to everything else this week. Everything else, following kind of Bitcoin largely, apart from Celsius Network, which has had basically kind of a sell-off towards the second half of the week, throughout the week. So down almost 3% this week compared to some of the others. So another disappointing week for Celsius. You can see this little kind of dip midweek that all the different kind of tokens seem to have. You can see that tally up here, but then after that, everything else rising pretty nicely, and Celsius tailing off. So it's been a little bit of a tumultuous few weeks and kind of months. Every time it sees like a big spike up, it seems to give up those gains pretty easily now. So a little bit disappointing for Celsius token holders who are hoping to see some continued positive kind of price moves at the beginning of this year, like we saw at the end of last year. But all the big news really this week is the updated rates, and I suppose the biggest news is BlockFi. So last month, a lot of people were really disappointed when they introduced these new tiers, and you can see the new tiers that we have enabled here. So 0 to 1 a Bitcoin, 1 to 20, and 20 plus, and these are also showing in this this table here. So basically, it's bad news for those people who have their crypto in BlockFi. The rates are reducing again, and also the tiers are reducing. So when I first saw the headline one, 6% for Bitcoin down to 5%. Now this used to be the first Bitcoin. Now it's just going to be the first half of Bitcoin. So it's a double kind of whammy. The second tier is still up to 20. They're paying 2%. Now this looks like it is around what's kind of like achievable, reasonably easy within the kind of industry. I think the kind of 2%, this 0 to 0.55% looks like just a sort of like a teaser kind of rate, really. So really disappointing. I moved all but one Bitcoin out of BlockFi last month when it dropped to 6% for the first one, so I just left one in there. And now with not just a reduction in rates to 5%, but a reduction in the 0 to 0.5, very, very disappointing. Everything 20 and above stays the same, 0.5%, but I doubt many people are leaving more than 20 in a BlockFi, because you'd be far better off going directly to kind of Genesis if you've got a large number of Bitcoins, or potentially Gemini, something like that. And then the Ether updates. Used to be 0 to 100 ETH at 5.25%. Now it's 0 to 15. So a massive drop there. You know, only the first 15 ETH and only at 4.5%. So a rate drop and then a massive tier drop as well. And then 15 to 1,000. It used to be 100 to 1,000, 2%. So the rate's the same there, and 1,000 above 0.5%. Now I don't know anybody that would be keeping large amounts of ETH on these kind of platforms when you can earn so much with kind of DeFi platforms and stuff like that. So pretty disappointing. And then the bad news really continues across all their kind of coins. So Link from 5.5 down to 4.5%, Litecoin from 6.5 down to 5.5, and Pax Gold from 5% down to 4%. So these will be effective as of the 1st of May, which is kind of tomorrow. So really disappointing. There's some information about why they're making these kind of changes now. In general, I don't mind kind of rate changes. Obviously, it's disappointing. We want to earn as much as possible, but this means that they can maintain a kind of stable and reliable and solvent kind of platform going forward. You know, this ultimately is, you know, is the most kind of important thing, I suppose. So, you know, if they can only afford to pay out 2% on Bitcoin, you know, up to the first 20, they can only afford to pay out 2% on Bitcoin. Now, I think BlockFi have traditionally, you know, taken a lot of VC money and then have run quite a few loss leaders, you know, in order to get kind of new customers, with the hope of them picking up additional kind of revenue on the other side of things. So whenever somebody takes out a Bitcoin backed loan, if you're using their exchange, this sort of simple exchange to exchange between cryptocurrencies, there's a huge spread on that, and that's kind of where they're making up their money. But imagine with so many people depositing Bitcoin, so many people looking for a yield, they just can't maintain these kind of prices. It's very disappointing, particularly for those of us who have been with BlockFi for a while. I remember when you used to get a good rate on your first 5 Bitcoin in BlockFi, and then that went to 2.5, then it went down to 1, and now just down to half a Bitcoin. So unless you've got a tiny amount of crypto, does to a certain extent sort of exclude BlockFi from a lot of my kind of reckonings. I'll leave a token amount of these kind of coins maybe on BlockFi. I think it's a pretty safe platform. I think it's a pretty decent platform, but yeah, very disappointing that the rates have dropped again so soon after the last drop. And then what I'll be doing in the description below is putting links to all the sites where you can actually look at their rates in kind of future. Obviously, I keep the spreadsheet as updated as I can, but if you want to go direct to the actual kind of sites, I'll put the links to these. So this is the earn page on BlockFi, where you can kind of look and see how much you can earn on the different coins. And then moving on to kind of Ledn. So after some bad news with BlockFi, some really good news with Ledn. Now, Ledn had a slight reduction in rates, or they had an increase in rates from 6 to 6.1, but an introduction of a tier, so only on the first 2 Bitcoins. Now, they're holding the rate steady in May, so that's really good news. So 6.1% on the first 2 Bitcoin, 2.25 on all the Bitcoin over that. So a far better option, I think, for anybody but those with a tiny amount of kind of Bitcoin, where, you know, you might want to split between say Ledn and BlockFi, half a Bitcoin on each. But over and above that, Ledn a far better option now, with 6.1% up to the first 2 Bitcoin, and then 2.25% over and above the 2. There isn't a third tier or anything like that. And the USDC rate remains changed at 12.5%. Now, this is by far the best in the industry, like for like. So nice to see these holding for another month. I don't know how much longer they can afford to hold these. Hopefully they will still maintain a decent kind of rate for the first, even if it's the first kind of Bitcoin, and then see a kind of reduction after that in future months. But nice to see them able to kind of keep those kind of rates for another month at least. And if you're interested in Ledn, you can jump over and have a look at their BTC savings page here. There's a detailed kind of page on the kind of rates with the different tiers there. And then moving on to Celsius. Celsius have their own earn page on their website. If you scroll, you have to scroll down this past all the pretty pictures to this table at the bottom, and then you select whether you're international or US user. Now, US users still get 6.2% on the first 2 Bitcoin, so that's a really nice rate if you are in the US. If you're not in the US, it's 3.51%, so pretty poor, but that is not tiered. So you will find that holding just even maybe kind of 1 to 2 Bitcoin on BlockFi will now be kind of worse than actually holding it with a like for like on Celsius. Now, obviously there are different kind of risk profiles to every different kind of company, so you'd have to make the decision whether you are happy to hold a lot of Bitcoin on kind of Celsius. But if once you start ramping up the kind of amounts, then you know, Celsius becomes maybe a little bit more attractive potentially for some of these coins. It's obviously got a lot of other coins as well. Now the rates have been coming down on Celsius as well. There's no guarantee that these rates will stay more than the next kind of week or so. They do get updated pretty frequently, and we saw, as I said last week, a dip down on the stablecoin prices. But the page here, earn rewards on your crypto, on the Celsius network site, Crypto.com have actually got a page with the rates in. You have to scroll down a little bit further, but they've got this table now which is kind of interactive, so you can choose the coin, so say Bitcoin, and then you can select your stake. So for most people it would be CRO stake, and then the deposit term. So if you want flexible, you can see 1.5%, not particularly great, but at least they've got this on the website. You used to have to jump into the app, so I used to use this page, and it's well worth bookmarking this page. Gives you all the details and all the sort of behind the details, behind the sort of like the glossy kind of like website details on all of their kind of rates. So all the supported locations. So you can see here some coins not supported in various locations. You can see here USDT, Amize Go and Uniswap not available in the US, and then various other coins not available in some states, some not available in Singapore, etc., etc. And then there's a table here that shows you basically the kind of rates for flexible 1 month and 3 month lockups, again with or without staking the various amounts of CRO. And finally on Nexo, they also have their earn crypto page. Now Nexo I think probably keep their rates as steady as anybody I've seen. We had the introduction of the lockup in order to maintain the same rates as before, which was quite disappointing in the last month or so. But apart from that, I haven't seen any kind of rate changes for quite a while on Nexo. Again, these are headline rates that you won't get unless you are earning in Nexo and you're a platinum kind of a platinum user, so you hold 10%, I think it is, or more in Nexo tokens as a total of your total kind of crypto on the kind of platform. If you're earning in kind, it's less, and then this is a maximum amount you can earn in kind as a platinum user. You'll be earning less if you don't hold all of their tokens. So hopefully that's been quite useful. I'm interested to hear from other people about potentially other platforms they're using. People, you know, is anybody thinking about moving their kind of crypto? I know a lot of people on the BlockFi subreddit were talking about, you know, well, this is sort of like, you know, final nail in the coffin. I'm going to be moving stuff off of BlockFi. I think there'll be potentially people with a lot of coins on kind of BlockFi who think it's hardly worth keeping half a Bitcoin on a kind of platform like that, and we'll just remove all of it. So we'll have to see how much of an impact this has on, you know, on BlockFi. They've raised a huge amount of VC kind of money. They're obviously, you know, feeling the kind of requirements to kind of, you know, sort of like really push the kind of user base and get a lot more users. So it'd be interesting to see whether they can continue to attract users, maybe through additional kind of services and offerings over and above the kind of platform. But obviously all these platforms as well offering crypto-backed loans, and that's quite a popular kind of segment of the kind of market, and one that is indeed a lot more profitable, I would imagine, than the earning interest for these kind of platforms. Anyway, that's it for this this update. Thanks very much for watching. As always, let me know if you have any questions or thoughts in the comments below. It's always nice to hear from you. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. Look after yourself. Hopefully I'll see you on the next video, but until then, have a great day. Bye bye.